Daniel really set the scene for us so beautifully this morning, where he looked at the global environment, and I think it's best described as the head of the World Economic Forum said, we are living in a time of great peril or great promise. And how do we decide which one that we're heading for? Because we're living in a global village where Facebook is a country with over 2 billion citizens. And the one thing that we know, that if we are going to do this, we have to be able to do it together. And there is one essential ingredient that we have to have if we're going to make this happen. And that ingredient is trust. Now, trust is normally seen as something between two people, between you and I, but it's so much more than that. CEOs internationally these days are beginning to realize that trust is a primary driver for bottom line growth. It is also the heart of a healthy culture, because as with the pace of innovation, our competitors are literally taking 15 minutes to duplicate what they're doing. But the one thing they cannot duplicate is our people. And in order to build that healthy culture, we need trust to make that happen. But yet we live in a time of such huge distrust. And trust at the moment is being measured internationally around the areas of politics, business, and media. And it comes at a terrible, terrible cost. And we're seeing this in our world. I can imagine when Hillary woke up on the morning of the American election, she must have asked herself, what happened? She was the most competent, the most experienced candidate, but how does one possibly lose an election to Donald Trump? And in the next few days, we've had to go to court to invite politicians to vote with their conscience. When we have a look at the Gupta emails, we are seeing big business colluding with politicians. And ladies and gentlemen, let's not fool ourselves. You cannot have a corrupt politician without a corrupt businessman paying the bill. The cost of distrust, it is huge. It is wiping billions off our bottom line, and it is negatively affecting our gross domestic product. So how do we build trust? And how do we crack this trust code so that we can bring trust into our organizations, into our society as a driver for growth? And I want to introduce you to 3 keys. The first key is character, and this asks the question, who am I? Do I actually understand my values? Am I crystal clear on how they show up consistently in behavior? Because people are not looking for perfection. Don't get me wrong. People are not expecting you to be perfect. In fact, they don't trust perfect. They are wanting you to be real. They're wanting you to be authentic. So if you know me, you will know one thing is that you do not pick a fight with me before my first cup of coffee. You hand me the cup of coffee and then you back away slowly. After that, I'm all yours. The second key is connection. Now, connection is the heart of trust. And how often have you heard the saying, people don't care what you know until they know that you care? And connection can probably best be described by, as Brené Brown described it, as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen and heard, when they can give and receive without judgment, and they're actually strengthened by the relationship. So it's the CEO who allows themselves to be vulnerable and to come into the room and say, I don't know everything. I need to rely on your strengths. I have 2 master's degrees, but the greatest and the most challenging leadership academy I attended was as a single mother, and I had to learn it was okay to tell my kids that I was wrong. And in doing that, it deepened our respect and our connection, and we were able to move forward. The third one is credibility, and this is so important because this talks to, are we meeting those deadlines? Are we fulfilling our brand promise? Are we fulfilling our brand values? Do we know our stuff? Because those are the people who customers will bring their problems to, and then they can move and they can carry on. But how do we build this trust? And we have to understand how trust shows up in the brain, because the easiest way of building trust or creating distrust is through conversation, and we're just not doing it very well. Distrust sits in the instinctive part of the brain, and when we speak harshly to people, we pour cortisol into the system, and we actually call that a cortisol conversation. And what that does is it shuts people down, and then you wonder why they're not giving you what they want. All right, on the other hand, we pour oxytocin, which is the love drug, into the brain. And what that does is that opens it up and people connect and they want to work with you and they are prepared to go the extra mile. Because this is absolutely essential. If we want people to follow us into battle or to do more than we're paying for them for, we say to people, go the extra mile. Without connection, this will not happen. So I deal in the space of conversational magic. And how I came up with this term is, do you know what the word abracadabra means? It's magic, right? But do you know where it comes from? It comes from the ancient Aramaic, and it means when I speak, I create. How powerful is that statement? And we speak things into being. So I want to give you a quick example because I believe words create worlds. And let's have a look at a hashtag that is currently part of our social discourse. When I see this, on one hand, I can understand the pain and frustration that gave rise to this. But on the other hand, I look at my sons and my husbands and my male colleagues and I can't connect with it. And I ask myself, what are we speaking into being? What if we were to rather say, all lives matter? When we speak positive into the world, we speak our future into being. So ladies and gentlemen, as we look into the future and we want to create the future that we want to bring into being, to answer that question that Ryan asked to Daniel earlier, we can, through conversational magic, speak our future into being by taking conversation for possibility into action. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we crack the trust code. Thank you very much.